Just one generation ago, our world was haunted by an apocalyptic fear. Its name? Overpopulation. Scientists wrote treatises, futurists painted dystopias, and politicians enacted draconian measures. We were convinced that humanity was a plague of locusts, devouring the planet. Resources were finite. Space was running out. There were simply too many of us. This narrative was woven into our cultural code. But today, in a deafening silence, a drama of a different kind is unfolding. The pendulum has swung with staggering force. We are living through the Great Inversion. The fear of excess has been replaced by the terror of emptiness. Instead of the population bomb, we now speak of a demographic winter, of a collapse in birth rates, of the specter of empty playgrounds and dying nations. Visionaries like Elon Musk claim this quiet crisis is a threat to civilization far more existential than climate change. The global population is still growing, but this is merely the fading momentum of a dying pulse. The peak is already on the horizon, and beyond it lies a cliff. The data is merciless. The total fertility rate, the very heartbeat of our species, is plummeting almost everywhere. A century ago, a family with 5 to 7 children was the norm. Today, the world barely reaches 2, the simple replacement level, and continues its downward slide. And while developed nations have long grown accustomed to this, the true alarm sounded when this virus of childlessness infected the developing economies, the very cultures where large families were an axiom. Projections suggest that by the end of the century, the populations of countries like Japan, Spain, or Thailand could be cut in half. This is an unprecedented moment in history. What has broken in the most fundamental mechanism of life? What threat does a world without children pose to us? And what daring, almost heretical solution is science preparing at the intersection of biology and artificial intelligence? This is Reality Glitch. Today, we investigate the silent pandemic gripping humanity and peer into the technological cradle of the future, the artificial womb. This crisis respects no borders, religions, or GDP levels. It is universal. Its epicenter is East Asia. In South Korea, the fertility rate has crashed to a catastrophic 0.78, with forecasts promising a further decline. This is a national emergency. In Japan, young people are increasingly opting out of marriage and relationships altogether. There's even a term for it: herbivore men. A symbol of this new era, one that sends a chill down the spine. In 2023, for the first time in history, sales of strollers for pets in South Korea surpassed sales of strollers for infants. We have begun to care more for companion animals than for our own offspring. But this is no longer just a rich country problem. Iran, Bangladesh, Indonesia, Egypt, nations that were once synonymous with the population explosion are now facing the same reality. The United Nations has declared that the world is experiencing a global fertility decline of unparalleled scale. And here lies the central paradox. People still want children. Surveys show that most dream of having 2 or 3, but a chasm has opened between desire and reality. Nearly 1 in 9 people on the planet admits they cannot afford to have as many children as they would like. The crisis is not biological. The crisis is in the very architecture of our civilization. Reason number 1. the crushing economics of parenthood. In the agrarian age, a child was an asset, an extra pair of hands to work the land. In the modern, urban economy, a child is a luxury item, the most expensive project of your life. Mortgages, education, healthcare, extracurriculars. Parents across the globe look at this price tag and are horrified. "We are barely able to manage one," admits a couple from Mumbai. "We are simply too afraid to even think about a second." Reason number 2, the deficit of our most irreplaceable resource, time. The career race, endless work hours, exhausting commutes. There is no strength, no energy left for a family. Adulthood is postponed. We study longer, build careers later, and marry later. The fertile window granted to us by nature is rapidly shrinking. Reason number 3, a shift in our value system. The modern world is a kaleidoscope of alternative paths to self-fulfillment. Career, travel, hobbies, virtual universes. Personal growth has become the priority. In this framework, raising multiple children is often seen as a sacrifice, a surrender of personal freedom. Individualism has triumphed over the instinct for procreation. Reason number 4, fear, anxiety for the future, climate catastrophe, political instability. Why bring a child into this dying world? This question is asked more and more often by young people in the West. This isn't selfishness. It is a form of responsibility taken to its extreme. And finally, reason number 5, perhaps the key, the new role of women. Access to education and a career, the greatest achievement of the 20th century, has naturally led to a decline in birth rates. An educated, economically independent woman plans her family with intention. But here lies a paradox. In societies where women are still expected to carry a double burden, a career and the unpaid labor of the home, she is forced to make a choice. And often that choice is one child, or none. A low birth rate isn't a disease. It's a symptom. It is the result of millions of individual, rational decisions made in response to the realities of the 21st century. It is our species adapting to the new environment we have ourselves created. Governments are in a state of panic. A desperate race for babies has unfolded across the globe. Everything is on the table. Baby bonuses in Singapore, lifelong tax exemptions for mothers of large families in Hungary, enormous payouts in South Korea. Russia is reviving the Soviet-era title of mother heroine. But the verdict from demographers is grim. None of it is working. Cash infusions provide only a short-term spike. Families don't have more children, they just have them earlier to claim the bonus. Even the most generous social programs, like those in France, only manage to keep the birth rate slightly above the European average, yet still below replacement level. South Korea has spent hundreds of billions of dollars to support families, and it continues to set new world anti-records. Why? Because these measures treat the symptoms, not the disease. They don't make housing more affordable, the workday shorter, or the future more secure. And when traditional methods are exhausted, the mind begins to seek the unconventional, the radical, the solution on the borderline between science and heresy.
Imagine a world where pregnancy is detached from the female body, where the process of gestating a child occurs not in a womb, but in a purpose-built device. This is the concept of ectogenesis, the artificial womb. An idea that seems lifted from the pages of Aldous Huxley's Brave New World is now taking shape in the world's most advanced laboratories. What is it? Imagine a perfect cradle. a transparent biopod filled with a sterile analog of amniotic fluid. An umbilical cord connects the fetus to a life support system, an artificial placenta that delivers oxygen and nutrients while removing waste. Temperature, pressure, hormonal levels, all are monitored 24/7 by an artificial intelligence that tracks thousands of biomarkers to ensure optimal development. Science fiction? In 2017, scientists in Philadelphia made a breakthrough. Using a device called the Biobag, they successfully gestated extremely premature lambs. These tiny creatures, equivalents to a 23-week human fetus, didn't just survive. They continued to develop normally for 4 weeks outside their mother's body. They grew wool, their brains matured, their eyes opened. The principle was proven. Life can be sustained and nurtured in an artificial environment. The official goal of such projects is to help premature infants, but this is only the first step. Israeli scientists have already grown mouse embryos in a bioreactor to the halfway point of gestation. For now, legal and ethical norms prohibit experiments on human embryos beyond 14 days, but technology is already knocking at that door. Once that barrier falls, the path to full-cycle ectogenesis will be open, from fertilization in a test tube to birth from a technological cradle. Visionaries are already painting pictures of the future. The biotechnologist Hashem Al-Ghali has presented a concept called Ectolife, a baby factory capable of growing 30,000 infants a year. In his vision, parents could monitor their child's development via a smartphone app, play music for them, talk to them, and even select genetic options from an elite package. Proponents in Silicon Valley see this as a panacea. By removing the biological risks and social costs of pregnancy, they believe we could trigger a new baby boom. A woman would no longer have to choose between a career and motherhood. Couples struggling with infertility would have a new chance. Nations on the brink of extinction could launch programs of national renewal. But is it really that simple? Even if the technology becomes perfect and safe, the artificial womb does not answer the fundamental question, why? It doesn't eliminate economic pressure, the scarcity of time, or the fear of the future. According to the most optimistic projections, ectogenesis could only slightly slow, but not halt the demographic decline. But it will unleash a torrent of new, far more profound questions about the very essence of humanity. Pregnancy is not just a mechanical process of gestation. It is 9 months of forming an invisible but unbreakable bond. The fetus in the womb hears its mother's voice, feels the rhythm of her heart, and responds to her emotions through hormonal signals. It is a mysterious dialogue that precedes birth. What happens to this bond when it's mediated by a screen and sensors? Can a machine, no matter how advanced, ever replicate the warmth of a human body? Will we create a generation of people with a diminished capacity for empathy and attachment? Critics warn of the risk of commodification, of turning procreation into manufacturing and a child into a product. If we can order a baby on demand, does life itself become devalued? Will a new form of caste society emerge, the naturally born versus the pod-born? Will they be considered fully human, or will they be seen as biological robots? This technology could also forever change the landscape of social debates. Take the issue of abortion. If a fetus can be removed and grown to term in an incubator instead of being terminated, will this not become an argument for a total ban? Finally, the most frightening scenario, the Huxleyan dystopia. What if states obsessed with national revival begin the mass production of citizens in government-run facilities, children who do not belong to parents but are the property of the system? We stand at the dawn of a new era. The demographic crisis born from our own success, the growth of prosperity, education, and individual freedom is pushing us towards a technological solution that could change our species forever. The artificial womb is not just a medical device. It is a mirror reflecting all our hopes and fears, the desire to control nature and the terror of losing our humanity, the will to continue our lineage and the risk of devaluing the very act of creation.
To solve the problem of human scarcity without losing what makes us human, that is the central challenge of the 21st century. The answer will not be found in laboratories or silicon chips. It lies, as it always has, within ourselves. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to Reality Glitch to continue seeking answers to the questions others are afraid to ask. And now, the main question for you. If the technology were available and safe, would you trust a machine to birth your child? Let us know in the comments.